Okay, good evening, folks. I welcome you to our first webinar of 2023 after nearly a year's hiatus. I'm Anusha Natarajan and I work as a product marketing specialist at Site 24/7. And I'm really excited to be interacting with all of you today. I have here with me Mickey Joel, who is a product consultant for Site 24/7. Mickey, would you like to say hi to our audience?
Absolutely. I welcome you all to our today's webinar with Anusha and myself. So I hope we'll have a very fruitful session.
Okay, so let me quickly share my screen and let's get started. Right. So today's topic of discussion will be surrounding modernizing your APM solution with a unified observability platform. For the next half an hour, we will be discussing about monitoring versus observability, what makes your IT system observable, reasons as to why some IT monitoring solutions fall behind, and the importance of having a unified observability platform. So without any further ado, let's get started. Before we get into the whole monitoring versus observability saga, let me quickly introduce you to Site 24/7. Site 24/7 was launched in 2007 by Zoho's IT management division, ManageEngine, as a modern monitoring product to meet the demands of the emerging cloud-first IT world. So it was built by converging the company's expertise gathered from monitoring on-premise IT infrastructure. And now Site 24/7 has emerged to be a world-leading super app for IT monitoring, serving companies of all sizes. So now that you know a little more about us, let's get started with a brief introduction of monitoring and observability. So let's first look at monitoring. So what is monitoring? By a simple definition, monitoring can be defined as a means to measure the health of your IT environment. So in our case, that's going to be software applications. So by measuring the health of your IT environment, you will be tracking various metrics over an extended period of time and analyzing them using dashboards. So this means that with the help of monitoring, you can collect data, you can study the data, and you can optimize your application's performance based on the conclusion of your analysis. So that would be a very high level definition for monitoring. Now let's look at what observability is. So observability can be defined as the ability to assess an internal system's state. So by assessing assessing the state of the internal system, you will be helping your team gain an in-depth understanding of your application's health and the resources across the IT infrastructure. So simply putting it, in very simple terms, observability takes information about your IT system that is already available externally, and it uses this information to make assumptions about how well your IT system is performing and how all you can improve it. So that would be a little bit on the a definition of observability. So since we are speaking about observability, we spoke about this externally available information that observability utilizes to analyze your system, right? So this is usually accumulated using what we now know as the three pillars of observability. So the three pillars being metrics, traces, and your logs. So before we move on, let's look at what these terms mean. So the first pillar of observability is metrics. So metrics are a key set of key performance indicators that give you some insight into your systems. So they are typically numerical values that you collect using your monitoring tools. So metrics can change depending on what component of your IT infrastructure you're monitoring. For example, if you're monitoring a website, then the metrics you collect would be a response time or the page load time or the request count. And if you're monitoring your server component, you would collect metrics such as the CPU utilization, the memory utilization. So the metrics varies, like I mentioned, varies according to the component that you are monitoring. So the second pillar of observability is what we call traces. Traces, what they do is they record journeys through an application. So why are traces important and why are they considered a pillar of observability? So with traces, you will be able to identify the exact line of code where an issue is occurring. So only if you're able to drill down to the issue to the code level, you will be able to figure out what is going on, what is going wrong with your application, and you will be able to optimize your application. So with application architecture now being distributed, we look at distributed tracing, and that has become the pillar of second important pillar of observability. So now the third most important layer, the third most important pillar of observability is logs. So what are logs? Logs are machine generated, time-stamped records of events in your system or your software that you can use to debug your applications. So that would give you an idea about the three pillars of observability. So now we have defined both monitoring. We have monitoring and observability. We have looked up a little on what the three pillars of observability are. So now we'll go and try to find the similarity or the difference between monitoring and observability. So though like monitoring and observability may look similar when you first look at it, they're actually quite different in nature. So monitoring is an action that you perform over an extended period that makes your system observable, while observability is the state you achieve through rigorous monitoring practices. So now that we have learned like what the difference is between monitoring and observability, it it makes you wonder how to make your IT system observable. So to answer this question, let's look at a typical IT stack. So with the typical IT stack, you have your hardware, your network layer, you have your operating system, you have your database, you have your middleware, the services, and your user interface, which is typically a web application that your clients will be using. So all these layers, they produce external data, and this data needs to be analyzed to ensure that your application is performing optimally and glitch free. So the ability of yours, the ability to collect and analyze all this data from all these layers without setting any predefined criteria is what makes your IT system truly observable. Now, when we look at observability from this angle, it is pretty clear to us like what we need to have, like that we need to have eyes on every nook and corner of your application, right? So this again leads us to asking, is monitoring enough? Is monitoring truly enough? In one word, no. Monitoring alone is not going to help you achieve complete observability. So when you look at companies that were offering monitoring solutions, at least in the past, you would have probably noticed that they often followed a piecemeal approach to monitoring. What I mean by this is that some companies probably specialized in infrastructure monitoring, maybe some specialized in application performance monitoring, while others focused on front-end monitoring. So like although like this with the advancement in technology, companies have caught on and they have realized what expectations are, and they have now started offering more comprehensive solutions. So you have a lot of companies that offer more comprehensive monitoring solutions, a comprehensive platform, if I may. So that's one of the reasons why I feel monitoring was not considered enough. Secondly, monitoring is a more reactive approach. When I say reactive, I mean that with monitoring, you can define the criteria of what you want to measure. You set certain thresholds for this criteria, and you get alerts if an error is detected, right? So once you get an alert, you go on to troubleshoot these errors before your users are affected. Observability, though, is proactive. So with observability, you correlate and you interpret the collected data, and and with this collected data, your team will be able to detect any relevant anomaly patterns in your system before an error actually occurs. So your team will be able to go in and fix the issue before it actually happens. So it's a very proactive approach to like getting ahead, right? With to make sure that your application is going to be performing very smoothly and you're not going to have any hiccups, right? So lastly, I would say that monitoring is complete. Monitoring alone is not enough, because monitoring only measures the known knowns. So for you to understand this term better, let's take a look at this quadrant. So we have the known unknown quadrant. So in this known unknown quadrant, you have the known knowns. which are things that we are aware of and that we understand. We have the unknown, we have the known unknowns, that are things that we are aware of but we don't understand. Then we have the unknown knowns, that are things that we understand but we are not aware of. And finally, we have the unknown unknowns. Those are things that we are not aware of and we do not understand as well. So the aim with observability is to be able to monitor these unknown unknowns as well. Okay. So I know this, maybe this picture seems a little out of place, but I will get to it. So with monitoring, like I mentioned, we only tend to catch the known knowns, right? So we know what metrics are critical to our business, and we only look to capture any discrepancies in these metrics. So this approach worked great when applications were a lot simpler in nature. But modern IT applications have gotten really complex. So you need when an issue occurs, it may seem to have occurred in one area, but then it may migrate and it may spread and it may actually end up causing an issue in another seemingly unconnected area altogether. So this is and your typical monitoring tool will not be able to capture this issue because it wouldn't even know where to go look for this issue. So you would fall behind. So why this picture is put up here is that with monitoring, you only capture the tip of the iceberg. That's all you know. But with observability, you need it's something that you capture what lies beneath, right? Okay. So this is like where the observability comes into play. So like we mentioned, an observability platform collects metrics, traces, and logs from all your components of all the components of your IT infrastructure and correlates this data. Now, this segues us into the next piece of the observability puzzle. If monitoring tools don't help you run a glitch-free application all the time, what does? I would say the answer to that is a unified observability platform. So you get a unified observability platform by unifying these three pillars of observability that I mentioned, right? So by unifying these three pillars of observability, what it helps you get is a holistic view of your application and its infrastructure by monitoring these unknown unknowns that we talked about. And it helps you in turn make more informed business decisions. So your users, on the other hand, they will get a seamless digital experience, and this makes it a win-win for both yourself, the company, and your clients. All right. So let me reintroduce Site 24/7 and tell you a little more in depth about what we do here at Site 24/7. So Site 24/7 is an AI-powered full-stack observability platform that helps organizations optimize their IT expenses by monitoring your entire IT environment from a single console. So we deliver deep insights into digital experience. We put a major focus on infrastructure management and observability for modern IT applications. A solution, it allows seamless communication between different tech stack layers since it's such a comprehensive monitoring solution, and it enables AI-powered data consolidation. So we also have customization options and cross-layer integrations, and our company culture as well. It helps us offer a very cost-effective solution, which in turn helps us setting us apart from our competitors. Right. So now that I have reintroduced Site 24/7 to you, let's take a look at a business case. So business case, let's talk about a Zilker Corp. So you can take any application. It can be on premises or it can be cloud native, and it can be written using any programming language. So although like most applications have a web application as your first point of entry for your end users, right? So the minute a customer comes into your application, that marks the start of a transaction. So this transaction, it exists as the customer goes through the application, and it exists till they exit your application. So during this time, there is no guarantee that your application is going to be performing without any issues whatsoever. So there may be an issue in the database that may occur. There may be an issue in the server, or there may also be an unanticipated spike in traffic, so that you are not prepared for. So, for example, when you look at it, for example, you can take the example of an online retail store that's running promotions for, say, Black Friday. So there's a chance that during Black Friday, since a lot more people will be shopping online, there's a chance that your website may experience some slowness due to unmanageable traffic, right? Or if you're another example would be if you're say an educational establishment, and you have an application that your students use to manage their college courses, or that they use to enroll in college courses, and it's the beginning of the semester, so you would have a lot more usage during the beginning of the semester, and this is a time where you would be experiencing higher traffic. So if you aren't equipped to handle this additional load, your application's performance will fumble, it will end up fumbling, and your customers will have to suffer the consequences. So now let us take a look. We'll go with a similar example. Let's say it's a travel ticketing app from Zilker Corp called Zilpedia. So let that be the example. So I'll be one of the customers who is trying to, and Zilpedia is running a promotion for travel during the off season for 40% off on tickets. And I'm a customer who's trying to take advantage of this promotion, right? So I am looking to book, say, a ticket from New York to London during this off-season time, and I choose my destination, I choose my travel dates, and I'm now trying to click next to pay for my ticket. So this is a very common route, and there will probably be 1,000 other people like me who are trying to take advantage of this similar promotion, right? So this may cause me to experience some slowness in the page load time while the application tries to process the information in the backend. So this would account for an issue. The minute I enter the Zilpedia app that we talked about, so the minute I open the web application, that's when a transaction begins. So now when a transaction begins, during a single transaction, there will be millions of method calls that are happening, and the delay may be caused by any of these method calls. So it would be almost impossible to go and check every single method call to see which method call is actually causing this issue in the and which is that is ultimately causing this response time to be really slow. So this is where a monitoring platform like Site 24/7 comes into play. So you can use the distributed tracing feature. So with distributed tracing, you will be able to go down to the exact line of code, and you can identify which class and which method is causing this slowness. And then you can use best code practices to go and fix this issue. So we'll see the screenshot. So like you can see, we have the slowest method calls in the count over here, and you can see the response time is showing as 17.7 seconds. So the normal attention span when we are browsing online for something to load is about, I would say the upper end of it is about 2 seconds. So it should ideally be between about 200 milliseconds and 1 second, but the absolute upper limit is about 2 seconds. So anything more than that, we're going to lose patience and we are going to exit an application, which again is going to cause the company to bear losses, right? Because they've lost a customer. So 17.7 seconds is what the response time was. And it is being caused by this one method call, which is like the duration, if you can see, the one that is highlighted, it is taking up 14.6 seconds. So this is the exact method. So the developers were able, using this distributed tracing feature, now the developers were able to track down that it was this exact method call that is causing this issue, and they were able to fix this issue by using custom instrumentation. So now if you see, after the developers went in and did their magic, and after they optimized this, you can see in the second screenshot now that the overall response time has gone down to 2051 milliseconds, right? And then it has gone down to 2051 milliseconds. And if you see the slowest method calls, it has gone down from 14.6 seconds to about 811 milliseconds. So this has ultimately it has gone down. It has gone down from approximately 18 seconds to your in response time to about 2000 milliseconds in a response time, which is an improvement, an overall improvement of 88.4%. So like you can see in this screenshot, it has gone down to 811 milliseconds. Right. So like I mentioned, that was a reduction of about 88.4%. So now since like the response time has been optimized, what does it lead to? It leads to a faster loading website, and I have a glitch-free web experience. So I'm able to go ahead and book my ticket, and you as a company, you're able to convert this transaction into sales. So this is what I call as the win-win situation for us. So that would be the end of the use case. So I would like to bring in Site 24/7, a little more about Site 24/7 again for the third time. And I would like to mention that we already have 13,000 plus customers worldwide, and they already trust Site 24/7 to achieve top observability, and they reduce repair time and cut costs in their IT environment. So we hope that you choose us to start your monitoring account with us, and leave your monitoring worries to us. So that's all I had. That's the end of my presentation. I will open the floor to questions now.
Hi everyone again. So I see the two questions have been posted in the session today. So the first question would be to how to observe your server's performance. So in order to monitor your server's performance, first you need to set up a baseline to your metrics, such as like the CPU usage, memory usage, your network interfaces bandwidth. So for your respective servers metrics, you can set up a baseline which would be normal to you, to your environment, and to get notified if those baselines get exceeded. If the CPU usage crosses 75%, if you want to get a notification about that to check upon your server, then you can do that. So in order to have these alertings to be done and to configure these baselines, you would require an appropriate monitoring tool in place, which would help you to get notified for these thresholds. And apart from these basic metrics, you should be able to monitor the logs that is present in your server, the services and the processes that are running in your server. And along with your server's metrics, you should be also able to monitor the applications that are running in your server, like a SQL server, Exchange server, and etc. So a monitoring tool with all these features included would be an appropriate way to observe your server's performance. And the next question is, how complex is today's IT stack? What are the challenges in observing the performance of a modern IT application with a large global user base like fintech or e-commerce? So at the present day, we have multiple dynamic cloud environments in place, wherein we have complexities like auto scaling for the instances, and distributed tracing is required, so that as Anusha said, so that we need to monitor various external components of an application server. So these are some of the complexities that we have today, and again, it is required to have a monitoring tool with upgraded features to which would get correlated with this dynamic cloud environment. And being a fintech or an e-commerce site, it is very required to monitor their appropriate websites, their transactions in the page, how much traffic is coming in, and also to monitor the log lines of these servers. So again, Site 24/7 would be the best solution for these.